Welcome to Monday Night Live, the weekly training that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth.
So, guys, I want to introduce you to Dave Kimbrough. I met Dave through the podcast interview, and you know how we seek people out who we're connected to, and turns out Dave and I come from similar backgrounds, like especially in coaching. We were both part of Craig Proctor's program years ago. So, Dave's familiar with some of the folks, like Jay and Michael Reese, and I think Andre too, for that matter. Do you remember Andre LaFountain, Dave? Does that ring a bell?
The name sounds familiar, yes, but
Yeah,
I remember Dave.
yeah. There's Andre.
uh-oh.
Yeah.
Hey,
So,
How you doing,
Andre.
Dave? Good to see you.
Yeah, that goes
well,
back many years. A lot of water under the bridge.
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
lots of learning. I mean, I'm in fact, I'll tell you guys a little, well, not a secret, but on the 31st of May, I fly up to Calgary, Canada, to hang out with guys like Lester Cox and Willie Miranda. I don't know if you remember those guys, Dave.
Oh
They
yeah.
were some of the generals. So it's an informal thing. It's a get together. It just happens to be a couple of former Proctor guys started this mastermind, and it's top people from around the country, brokers, team leaders, different brokerages, and everybody shares their best stuff, and you help people solve problems. They call the hot seat. So I'll be there first week of June, um, and maybe some of you guys here can join me the next time they have one, because I can tell you there is nothing better than sitting in a room full of people around at least the U.S. and Canada, that are top performers sharing their best strategies with you. So I'm going to learn and spread the word, and hopefully help some people myself. So, and again, so Dave met on the through the podcast, and then immediately knew I was going to invite him to teach class here. So that's why Dave's here, and he has a mainly family team in Grand Junction, Colorado, which is very close to the Utah border. So Dave, I'm going to turn it over to you, let you complete your introduction if you like, and everybody just please be willing to take notes, ask questions. Eric and I can monitor the chat box for you. Please use the chat box versus the Q&A box, which is another reason to let yourself be a panelist. Because if you're not a panelist, you stuck with the Q&A box, and we never seem to notice that. So, in any case, without further ado, Dave, welcome aboard, man.
Hey, thank you a ton, Gary. I appreciate you having me on. I'll be honest with you guys. This is my virgin voyage of teaching something like this on a Zoom type setting. So please show me some grace if you don't mind. And feel free to ask questions or whatever anytime you got. I'm really what you see is what you get type of guy. So if you have questions as we go through this, I've got about 15 slides. I can't tell you they're going to be super riveting, but I can tell you the information's really solid. So we started a code. Let me see if I can share my screen here real quick. Maybe you guys can see this. Just a sec. Sorry, guys. Okay.
You know what? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Let's see.
Here it comes.
There we go. You got it?
Yep.
Okay.
Expectation selling. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So we started this expectation selling. So I got into the business about 23 years ago. Over the past 23 years, I work with my sister here. So I'm kind of a 10,000 foot view guy. She's kind of a systems and processes person. We do a fair amount of volume here with our team. We've got 5 or 6 people, and on any given year, we'll do somewhere, depending on the year. This year, we'll probably do 250 transactions. In better years, we've done nearly 400 transactions with 6 or 7 people selling. So everything we do is geared around systems and processes. And so we devised this, what we're calling expectation selling. And the gist of this is to get your nights and weekends back and conquer the chaos. What we found is that real estate agents, in large part, oftentimes lead a life of chaos. there's a lot of stuff going on, and they just are constantly under stress and duress. The divorce rate for real estate agents is extremely high. And when I got into the business, I had been in the business about a year and a half. My wife got pregnant with twins, and sacrificing family was not something that I was willing to do, but I knew that I wanted to do a high volume of business and still do it quality. So what we're going to show you tonight is, about 15 slides of a coaching program we launched about, probably 2.5 months ago, and it's called Expectation Selling. The whole gist of this is having a proactive roadmap to develop skills and systems for achieving your goals while still enjoying freedom to choose your lifestyle. And we specifically did this so that we could meet people where they were in their production cycle or their business life cycle. And so whether you wanted to grow your production from wherever you were, if you were doing 10, 15, 20 deals a year and you wanted to grow that production, what we've been able to do is create a roadmap for you to be able to do that. And really, we did this to give people a roadmap so they could really do the volume they wanted to do, but most importantly, focus on the things that were still really important to them: friends, family, these things that often get left on the side of the road, as we call them, real estate roadkill. It happens a lot where we see that with real estate agents. And so what we really wanted to do is devise a system to help people put time back in their pocket and increase their volume. So it's simply put, working harder or working smarter and not harder. Expectation selling, it allows you to take control of your business without sacrificing those things that matter most. So join a prosperous career and satisfying personal life by implementing the really simple systems but effective strategies and their real estate tailored systems. And really, they're contractually tailored systems. All of the systems that we've put in place here and that we offer with expectation selling are geared specifically around a process or contract driven sale. And we've broken it down very intentionally all the way through the process of the sale for either buyer or seller. Keep in mind that expectation selling is not pardon me, Gary?
I'm just clearing my throat. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Keep in mind that expectation selling this is not about selling you more, selling agents more. This isn't about more leads, how to market yourself, how to do anything from a marketing perspective. This is about effective strategies and systems to help you manage the clients that you currently have, the contracts that you currently have, and manage those better, quicker, and to more closings, right? So this is all about system-driven sales. There are 11 different modules in expectation selling. And really the first module is about laying the groundwork hold on one second. Is about laying the groundwork for a broad overview of how it works. So ES gives you the skill set, or expectation selling gives you the skill set to strike the balance between your work and your personal life. And the nice thing about it is a lot of the things and strategies that we teach in expectation selling aren't just about the selling and the real estate process. They're also applicable to your own personal life. And so it'll differ from anything I think you've learned before. I don't know people who are teaching this kind of process-driven sales, and how two foundational strategies of proactively setting expectations and implementing relational systems are going to radically transform agents' careers and their personal life. It's going to teach them proactivity instead of being reactive. I mean, let's face it, most sales interactions are driven by being reactive. Before I was a real estate agent, I was a pharmaceutical rep, and scripts and dialogues, right? We got hammered with scripts and dialogues. That's what I spent my career doing. This isn't really about scripts and dialogues, because I feel like scripts and dialogues, especially overcoming objections, are a very reactive way to sell. If you're waiting on somebody to give you um, an objection, then you're already working from behind. And in real estate sales, most of the time, I think we know what's coming. You know what the objections are going to be. You know what the hurdles are going to be. All this is it's a radical mind shift from working proactively or reactively to working proactively. And so we're going to teach you how to turn that around and sell on the offensive, but without being offensive. So, people don't even realize it, right? But it makes the system of the sale or the process of the sale so much easier with so much less drama. I can tell you, it's it's been a life-changing thing for us. Because back in 2021, myself and one assistant did 159 listing sides, all residential resales. So doesn't include new construction. We did, that's another piece of our team. But we were able to do an awful lot of listing resale business with just two of us managing those transactions. And you can look online, our team has over 1,000 online reviews, all of them, but I think three of them are 5-star reviews. So people don't get lost in the shuffle of the process. The process makes the transaction much smoother and honestly much more enjoyable. So really the thing is we're going to help you identify why agents need it. One of the things that we're doing, and we had a meeting with Jay Kinder, Gary's kind enough to put me in contact with Jay Kinder, and one of the things is oftentimes you're selling solutions to people who don't realize they have a problem, right? Maybe you don't realize you've got a problem until it's too late a lot of times. And so, but what we're trying to do is realize that agents don't have to accept the status quo of always being on call or always sacrificing their personal life in the name of their business. So that's module 1. Module 2, it focuses on relational expectations. So we teach you these are the ground rules of how your relationships and your communication work. What we found is that, a lot of times agents don't really spend much time talking about communication, not only how they're going to communicate with their clients, but how clients should communicate with them. And I mean, that's the first broken cog in a chain that, really, if your communication is poor or their communication with you is poor, it's very difficult to manage that transaction effectively throughout the process. So it teaches you how to consistently execute the social contract with your clients, how to identify what those are. It's like telling the client that you request them to be open and honest throughout the transaction, and then you ask for permission to be the same with them. That is a relational expectation that sets a social contract moving forward, and it avoids so much stuff that gets lost in the shuffle, right? Of a typical transaction. You set that relational expectation right up front, and it really does. That's just one example of how you make the transaction progress in a smooth fashion. And that relational expectation, it sets the social contract. So it's as easy, it's being proactive to set relational expectations and removes guesswork and provides clarity. And that's really what some of these things are about, in the relational expectations, how to set them and what you're doing with them. It also teaches you how to lead through these relational expectations and teach you how to prompt these things in ways that the clients will almost always agree to. So there's a real intentionality to all of this stuff, and we want to make sure that you are learning to shift from the reactive mindset based on unstated expectations to proactive mindset based on clear expectations. It's a simple but transformative shift that, the foundation required for you to enjoy not only healthy relationships at work with your clients, with your employees, but also at home with your wife, your kids, your family members, all of that stuff. And we found that it's just a huge deal, and being able to identify how to do that is a big part of it. So that's module 2. And lastly, those process expectations, how of those, the process of how the contract is going to work from start to finish. So that's a huge piece of it as well. Module 3 in expectation selling teaches you how to remove roadblocks. That's another big piece of this thing. It's going to help you evaluate your own assumptions, expectations, and behavior that you're currently caught up in or you're bound up in, and the result in your business running you rather than vice versa. We find many times agents, their business runs them ragged. They're not managing their business. Their business is managing them. And so there's a lot of things you can learn about yourself, and we go through removing the roadblocks in module 3 so that they can evaluate what those things are, assumptions that you make that clients should do, or assumptions you have that you think clients have about you. So there's a lot of different things you can do that, and you can identify how you unintentionally, we reinforce these things so much. I can tell a client, hey, listen, if it's an emergency, call me, after 7 o'clock at night, right? But if it's not and it can wait till the next day, let it wait, right? That simple message. If they text me or call me at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night and I answer the phone, then I've reinforced that, right? I've reinforced that behavior if it's not an emergency. And so there's a lot of little things that you can do and not do that help reinforce the boundaries that you set with the clients. So unstated expectations are a huge piece. And some of those unstated expectations may be that you're available at all hours. I think real estate agents have that belief that they have to be available whenever the client is. And it's just really not true. The problem is they just really don't know how to set the boundary. And, fear of conflict, that's another huge one. Agents are scared of conflict. They don't want to have conflict with their buyers or their sellers. And we really help you overcome that, learn what that is, and you turn it on its head to help you proactively avoid conflict before it ever happens. Again, everything is geared around being intentional with every single thing we do. And on our team, literally down to inspection objections. I got one earlier today. I know what time I'm going to deliver it. I know how I'm going to deliver it. I know the message it's going to be delivered with, how that whole process is, and it's all set up so that inspection is better received by the seller than if we had just haphazardly thrown it at them whenever we got it, right? So we have trial and errored this thing over the years to make sure that everything we do is very intentional. And it's not saying you're going to become a robot. That's not what it is at all. Expectation selling isn't about becoming a robot, but you're going to learn to be intentional and leading the process and how that pays huge dividends throughout the cycle of the sale. Module 4, any questions thus far by anybody? I know I'm kind of covering a lot of material. I'm sorry.
No, you're doing great. And yeah, they'll questions usually start kicking in once you get through the heart of present, and then we get into some they'll ask you some details.
Okay, well,
like
we'll try to keep
how. Yeah.
All right, we'll keep rolling through then. Module 4 is the art of setting expectations. It's basic tools to begin implementing expectation selling on a very practical level. You're going to learn the art of framing expectations with 4 simple and practical skills that you can implement today. Those are identifying expressed expectations. That would be a boundary or actions that has been communicated and agreed upon. 2, implied expectations, an expectation one should know about without needing to be made aware of them. And 3 and 4, uncommunicated and or unrealistic expectations. These are expectations that are either uncommunicated or unrealistic, and oftentimes they can absolutely be both. But you're going to learn how to ask questions differently by framing those expectations into your questions and present options to your clients that will save them time in every single transaction. And it will radically improve your efficiency. I was on a podcast the other day, and one of the gals I was on the podcast with, she said, geez, it sounds like if you implement some of this stuff, you can save yourself hundreds of phone calls every year. And I said, it's not. If you're doing 100 transactions a year, you're not saving hundreds of phone calls a year. You're saving thousands of phone calls a year. right? It's just by implementing simple techniques. And we're going to teach you how to implement those techniques to make sure. Module 5 is elite skills of expectation selling. This gets into like more nitty-gritty stuff and helps you go beyond the basics to teach you more elite advanced skills of setting expectations and subtly at extremely useful and powerful ways, and how you're going to do those. Elite skills are meaning asking for permission, how to do that, when you should do that, when is it a good idea to do it, what does it achieve by doing it. Same with power of storytelling, the power of predicting. The power of prediction is a huge deal. And it really is a way to get clients to agree with you a lot of times, without them even realizing that they're going to agree. And same thing with storytelling. Storytelling is a very powerful tool. Just, I think a lot of people do it, don't realize they're doing it. But for us, it's, again, super intentional when we do it in the state of the process or the interview or whatever it might be. And then lastly, the takeaway. And there's some variations of this too. If you've ever heard of love and logic, we use a lot of love and logic in our sales teaching. And that is any two choices, either of which I can live with, right? It's a hugely powerful tool. I was just talking to one of my agents maybe an hour and a half ago. And she said she was talking about a counter offer. And I said, well, give them two choices, give them two counters, right? Or give them two options, either of which they can live with. I mean, I find that when I send two counters out, 85% of the time they'll select one of the two. If I send one out, the chances of them accepting it are not nearly as high as if I give them two, and we can live with either one of them. So it's just really simple stuff. And then the last thing is there's a bonus in there on module 5, asking for forgiveness. When to do that. We all screw things up, right? The most common thing we do is when you screw something up, you try to cover it up, you try to downplay it, you try to do whatever. It's a really simple thing. My kids have gotten really used to me asking for forgiveness, right? Because when I screw something up, you just own it. Ask for forgiveness. And then once you ask for forgiveness, nobody wants to be the guy who doesn't forgive, right? I mean, it's like, yeah, I messed that up. We should have done this differently. I mean, is this something, can you forgive me for this? And they're like, of course I can, right? It's the simplest thing. And then it's gone. It is dead and buried. But a lot of times we forget to ask simple stuff like that. So we're going to teach you how to do that. It's really simple, but it's a lot easier said than done in a lot of cases. Module 6 is expectation selling as a buyer's agent. Module 6, we teach you to apply new skill sets, more specifically to work as a buyer's agent, and give 4 simple and unique strategies that not only significantly reduce the time it takes to lead your buyers from looking, but to get them to close. And it's going to make every buyer's experience less stressful and much more fun. We've got several unique buyer strategies we go through in the expectation selling modules. And they're really tried and true strategies that really lead to showing fewer houses and more contracts in a lot less time. And it keeps it fun. It makes it helps agents drill down on exactly what buyers need and what they're looking for in a really short period of time. We're really trying to teach buyers, agents and agents in general who are working with buyers not to be order takers, right? To lead the process of the sale. That's what we're paid to do. And so we really get into the nitty gritty of trying to do that. I think it's really hard in today's world of technology. It's pretty simple to get sucked down into the just being an order taker, waiting for somebody to find a house online and go show it to them, rather than leading through that sale. So we get back to part of that process of you as the agent leading and driving the sale. Module 7, expectation selling as a listing agent. I've been a listing agent for 18 years. So I haven't worked with a ton of buyers. My sister does the buyer agent side of this sales program, and she's done a lot of buyer agency over the last 17 years. And it's going to teach you how to, in the listing side, we're going to teach you how to apply a new skill set to specifically to you to work as a listing agent. So if you're a listing agent out there, we've got systems and processes to really skillfully set expectations with every seller that will virtually eliminate unnecessary phone calls and, by golly, drama, right? I am the anti-drama king. I don't like surprises. I don't like drama. And I don't hardly ever deal with drama because, like Smokey the Bear, it's putting out fires before they ever show up, right? It's not being a firefighter. I think agents get addicted to being firefighters, right? I'm really busy. I got all this stuff. I got this inspection objection. I got this inspection, stuff to do. I've got this title work problem or this, that, and the other. We try to capture the opportunity to put those fires out long before they ever start because we know what those hiccups are going to be. The speed bumps. You've just got to prepare not only yourself and your systems, but the client for what those speed bumps are going to be, right? So it's how to set expectations and implement systems on every single level of the transaction process. Reducing unnecessary and repeat phone calls, leveraging technology. There's best pricing practices with clients, setting expectations around feedback, showings, timelines, inspections, title work, closings, etc. Again, it's about being super duper intentional. I mean, again, not being a robot, but just knowing that your systems are going to take care of the experience for the client. And it's huge. Module 8, identifying major deal killers and how to solve them up front as a buyer's agent. Module 8 teaches you how to predict the problems and prevent terminations at the 3 primary deal killing stages. And that's negotiations, inspections, and appraisals, right? You can eliminate a lot of that stuff by setting expectations with your client long before you get to any of those processes. We're going to teach you how to do that. You got to master that skill set and give you the confidence and tools to overcome almost any obstacle at these stages. And I mean, it's not foolproof, it's not perfect, but there's tried and true strategies to be able to do that to bring more deals to the closing table. And again, the idea is to provide the tools that you can implement during the sales process to lead to more closings. And I referenced Smokey the Bear. Not a firefighter. Firefighters sometimes get burned regardless of how good they are, right? But when was the last time you saw Smokey the Bear get burned, right? Dude doesn't get burned, right? Because he's always one step ahead of the fire. That is our goal. It's not sexy being Smokey the Bear. Trust me. It's not sexy, but it's profitable, right? And your clients are going to have a far better experience if you're Smokey the Bear than if you're some crazy amazing firefighter, right? We've just found that year in, year out. And module 9 is the same thing with how to solve them up front as a listing agent. Overcoming major deal killers on the listing side, loan issues. What questions do you ask loan officers? We've got in the expectation selling, there's a long list of questions you ask lenders, right? I talk to so many agents and I asked them, have you talked to the loan officer? Nope, I haven't. I hear it probably 75% of the time. And it's just crazy to me. We should be having conversations with these loan officers about what the qualifications of these buyers, not just taking a letter, right? I need to find out whether they're doing overtime, whether they filed their taxes, whether, what we're waiting on. There's all kinds of different questions depending on the loan program, depending on what they do for a living. Some of these things, and most lenders will answer these questions if you just ask. Whether they should or they shouldn't, they will. So we'll ask them, right? I'm not afraid to ask questions because I'll probably get answers. At least that's my experience. So again, as a listing agent, I know what the roadblocks are going to be for each individual house. They may be a little bit different. I know what they're going to be, and it's my job to prepare that seller prior to these things becoming a problem, because we need to adequately prepare the client ahead of time so that we can get them through to closing. And then module 13 goes over having a referral-based business. It's the holy grail for real estate agents, right? And the way to get more referrals is to have better systems and better processes to make sure that that is a very enjoyable experience that gets them to the goal that they're after. We're going to teach you the secret to having one essential conversation that turns clients into lifelong partners who contribute to the ongoing growth of your business. It's a hugely important piece of it. A large portion of my business, I'm sure the rest of you guys or anybody watching this does as well. It's a big deal, right? I mean, referrals are the bread and butter of the business, especially in today's day and age, to try to foster that loyalty with your clients. And then lastly, module 11, the systemization and automation. It gives you next steps to get even more time back in your calendar. We leverage videos extensively at our team to put more time back in our calendar, to make sure that we're staying ahead of what's going on, and the client is also ahead. We use automation to reinforce expectations across all aspects of our business. And it's the ultimate tool for getting your time, control, and freedom back. If an agent is out of control or feels like their business is out of control, it is definitely possible to get that back under control and put more time back in your pocket and running a crazy efficient business that's extremely profitable. And you can do a lot with less people when you start using automation, video, etc., for your systems and your processes. Okay, and really that's it. It's 11. It's 11. It's 11 modules, and the idea is it's a self-directed, right? We also do online teachings as well, but mostly it's an 11 module online course with a workbook. All the templates are there for all the videos and all that stuff, and you can check it out at www.expectationselling.com. And that's really it. But it's a crazy efficient way to do business.
Hi, I just want to take a moment to thank you for watching a recording of the Monday Night Live class. Hope you're getting a lot out of it. I'm sure you will. I wanted to let you know that, you can come to Monday Night Live whenever you want, but you can also participate more with the team. Why don't you set up a call with me, a one-on-one strategy call? I can go over everything with you, show you everything that we have to offer. For example, did you know that on our team, not only do you get your leads, we actually give you your own account on our lead gen system. So this puts you in control. You're not waiting on somebody to hand you leads. You get to pick the ones you want. Okay. Huge difference. We have 21 of our own proprietary marketing campaigns. They're all copyright protected. We're the only ones that can use them. Okay. The coaching is absolutely one-on-one. We got 3 coaches. We even have a 4th success coach that we have access to. Okay. One of left fewer than 100 in the world. Okay. One-on-one coaching. Right now the big problem is volume. We need more transactions. We need more inventory. I get it. Well, we know how to get it. Our team actually outproduces the national average by more than 2 to 1. So if you're struggling, don't do that anymore. If you're a solo agent, if you're a team, let's just talk. Smart entrepreneurs are always open to discussion. Learn what we have to offer, and then you can make an informed decision about staying where you are or moving on. You've got to decide, if you're not where you want to be, you've got to take action to get where you want to be. Let's see how we can help you do that. I look forward to talking to you. Click on the link, set up a call. And by the way, I'll see you on the next Monday Night Live. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you doing this too. Do you have any examples or case studies, even from your own life experience? I mean, obviously with without divulging the names and addresses, like examples of where in the past something may have gone sideways, but because of the practices that you implement for your team, and you're able to avoid these things. Some of the most what are the top 3 things you see most agents mess up on if they had the right automation, for example? Those things maybe not occur.
I mean, for me, it's really, there's a lot of simple stuff, right? I mean, it's like when somebody calls to set an appointment, right? I mean, if they call to set an appointment, I mean, the natural thing to do, I think, and I have seen agents do time and time again, is say, yeah, that's great. I'd love to come out. What time works for you? Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the wrong way to do it, because now they're in control of your schedule, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody calls me and they say, hey, I say, that'd be great. I'd love to come see you. I've got either Wednesday or Thursday afternoon available. Which one of those works for you? I mean, most of the time they choose one. And if they don't, they say, oh, those don't work. And I say, okay, that's great. What day do you go to work late? What day do you come home early? What day do you take a long lunch? Do you have an off day during the week? I mean, I probably go on half a dozen, if that, listing appointments either after hours or on weekends every year. And I'll sell anywhere from 75 to 130 houses a year. So 90% of the time, by just the first person who brings up when the meeting is going to be usually wins, right? If I let
Yeah.
them do it, they're going to win. If I do it, I'll generally win. And so, that's a huge one, I think. When it comes to communication with sellers, I have a story that I tell almost every single seller about the babysitter, right? And I
Mhm.
tell them about this client I had one time, and they would call me at all hours, and I'll tell them the story, and I'll tell them what they really needed was a babysitter. They didn't need a real estate agent; they needed a babysitter. And I said, and almost invariably they'll say, well, "Oh my gosh, they needed a babysitter." I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, who needs a babysitter? They don't need a babysitter." And I just tell them. Then I go over the rules of communication. Right? Here's how the communication works. Now I've identified a certain trait with something somebody doesn't want to be. Right? They don't want to be babysat. They don't want to be that person. And it's really
Mhm.
simple. I don't get calls from my clients after 6 o'clock. 95% of the time, unless it's a true emergency. It's great. It's great. Allows me to coach football, allows me to stay at home with my family. It allows me to hit everything I want. But it's really simple by telling a simple story, identifying a problem, giving them a behavior that they don't want to replicate. They won't replicate it now, right? It's so simple.
Yeah.
And then the last one, I guess if there's a third one, Gary, it's like, when you go to a house, I go to houses all the time, every day. And I went to two today, and it's just like it's a simple question. Anytime you go to a house and you see a roof, right? I'm not a roofing expert, right?
Mhm.
But I can tell from the knowledge that I've gained before I go, or the sight of that roof when I get there. I'm just using the roof example. I ask them, how old's that roof? I have no idea how old the roof is, they say. Oh, really? I said, how long have you been here? I know a lot of these answers, but I just ask the questions anyway. Then they tell me, I say,
Mhm.
hey, just so you know, roofs are a hot button ticket. So, I don't know. It probably looks fine, whatever, should be fine. That's all I say. That's it. And it's just taking a seed, sticking it in the ground. And from the time there till the time later, they'll grow that seed. That introduces the question. I don't have to get into it, don't have to go into it, but it introduces the question that the roof may be an issue. And 9 times out of 10, if it's an issue, we're able to overcome it without a bunch of drama because they have processed it from the time I mentioned it and discussed it
Mhm.
to the time it shows up on an inspection. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter
Well,
what that is. You can take any piece of the house and do the exact same thing.
yeah. Well, like the back to the first part, I like the concept of giving people a choice, but only of two things.
Yep.
And it was a hard lesson for me, and people try to tell me that because I was offering people three, four, five options, as I thought the more options, the better. But that's not how the human subconscious works. What that does is it's too much to think about, too much to process, so they just put it off to some other day, or they forget about it altogether. But if
Yep.
you give them a choice between one or two things, something else happens subconsciously. It's like their subconscious is saying choose one. In other words, they're going to choose one. That's the outcome. We don't know which one they're going to choose, but the subconscious process in their mind is they're going to choose something. So you're going to win that event right there. They're going to pick one or the other. So like with time frames, I usually give people an early morning time frame and the next day an afternoon time frame. They don't tell me really are they prefer to meet in mornings or afternoons. I'll see if I can determine a pattern from that. Um,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah. It
so
works great on counter offers too, right? I mean, it works great
yeah,
on counter offers. If I get an offer for X amount of dollars with $10,000 in closing costs, I can give them two counters, pay half the closing costs, raise the prices 10 grand, or just pay half the closing costs. 90% of the time, they will choose
yeah,
one or the other. They just will.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
If somebody explained to me the psychology behind it before, all I know is it's the subconscious mind is doing the work there. And when you do give them a choice of two things, generally speaking, you have a higher probability of them choosing one of those two things.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
so
Well, and lastly, too, one of the three things you said, the other thing is to implementing video. Implementing video into our listing and buyer agency protocol has probably been one of the biggest time savers we've ever done.
yeah,
And we do that at every step of the process to answer those questions we used to answer on the phone. We don't answer them anymore.
Are these like little short 2 and 3 minute videos? Like
Yep.
they're afraid just to, yeah, excellent.
Yep. Yep. Just to answer the typical questions. We just went through it every piece of the business or every process or every step in the contract. And so what are the questions we get all the time? Right. And then we just created videos around each one of those systems. So whether it be the
Yeah.
inspection, what were the questions people would ask about inspections? And we put together a little 3-minute video and we send it out and it stopped it. Radon test, doesn't matter what it is. Any video we put out,
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, those videos, do you have a YouTube channel?
We do have a YouTube channel. Yep.
Okay. Because that may be something, you may already have a playlist for this, but that's something that could make a great playlist. I mean, I know it's part of the content of the program, but what it does is it's giving people something that they can use. And once they find you on YouTube, I mean, we've had people on the team here, like Shastine Bradley's one of them. She's doing having a lot of success on YouTube. And the
Mhm.
more you put out there, the better. It just you your following grows. And they share it with people. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
We haven't posted those on YouTube. That's something we probably should look into. Yeah.
yeah. Even you know TikTok, Instagram, Facebook Reels, anything the shorts and the reels, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Can go because you're not giving away the farm. You're just giving it something that that for a fact that they can use, and then that's what's connecting to you. They're gonna earn their trust by doing that kind of stuff. So, guys, I'm speaking to everybody here. I'm not just speaking to Dave. Dave and I have sort of a fireside chat going on here. But, and guys, if you do have questions, please type them in because you've got a top performer here with a team that's really crushing it. And if I'm not mistaken, you're routinely you're number one in the market, right? Your team.
Yeah. For, about
Yeah,
17 years.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 17 years running. If I was a newer agent, like 3 years or less, or anybody that needs more transactions, I would be firing off questions to a person with 17 years being number one in their market, but while he's on the Zoom call. How's that for being subtle?
Yeah.
So, hey, I got a good question for you. So
Yeah.
there's a handful of us that are former Craig Proctor guys going back, a couple of decades. Um, is there a favorite campaign or like a marketing approach that you learned from I'll buy your house guaranteed or something like that. Your home sold guaranteed. That's what it was. You know,
Yeah. Your
you
your
ever
home
use
sold.
that or
We haven't used it in years. Your home sold guaranteed or I buy it for cash.
yeah,
I actually changed. I mean, that changed my career, right? I mean, that was the Craig Proctor system was. I mean, there's no replacement for that, right? When we were running that program in this marketplace, it was insane, right? I mean,
yeah,
I think it's gotten tougher as the internet has gotten more pronounced, right? I mean, I think it's a little bit tougher, but I mean, yeah, that was incredible. And really, the thing I learned about from Proctor the most is thinking outside of the box, right? I mean,
mhm,
they're outside of the box is where a lot of the answers, the earth shattering or the earth changing or the ground changing concepts come from is outside of the box.
yeah. Well, it's interesting. Obviously, he's a Canadian, and for people who have not lived up there or have friends or relatives or agents in Canada, the Canadian rules for marketing are much, much more strict than the U.S. rules. There's so much we can do down here that they simply can't do up there. You know, so you absolutely have to be creative. So that you know, your home sold or well, forget the exact wording, sold for top dollar, um, or guaranteed, or I'll buy it. Who, by the way, let's do a hand raise. Who here thinks that sounds scary? You're an agent and you're literally putting an ad out there. I'm Gary, going to guarantee you I'm going to sell your home. If I don't sell it to somebody else, I'll buy it myself. Who thinks that sounds like a risky endeavor? Just raise your hand or type in the chat box. Yes, I think that's risky. Okay. Would you like to know how that campaign actually works? Like what the basic premises of that?
Yes,
Let me
I'd
just
like
type.
to know how the fine print reads.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So Dave, I don't know if you want to take that, um, just kind of give them the lowdown on that because it actually is real. It's a real thing, and I know people have actually bought houses. But I'll let Dave if you let's test your memory banks. You know.
Well, I mean, the
Mhm.
beauty of the guaranteed sale program is it sounds scary, but it's really not because you set the ground rules, right?
Mhm.
You set the rules. It's my game. If you want to play in my game, here are my rules. So you can
Mhm.
take the rules Craig set up and you can alter those rules to be them any way you wanted to be, right? I mean, when we did it, we agreed upon a price, and if you didn't have the price you were asking for, there was a bottom price, right? But if you set it at a
Mhm.
list price, and then if you didn't have that within 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you lower the price by 5%. If you don't get it in another 3 weeks, you lower the price by 5% more. Then you back your commissions out of it or your compensation now out of both sides of it, and you end up having to buy it in 8 weeks. But if I've missed the deal by, what's 17, 20%, then I probably should buy it anyway, right? I mean, so
Yeah.
you've got fallback, or you've got safety nets in there to get you there. What people are attracted to is the fact that they just know it's going to be sold in a certain period of time. And
Right.
so I mean, dude was ahead of his time, let me tell you, with that one.
Yeah. Well,
That's
the key there is it's usually when somebody's selling, their outcome is usually a balance between time and money. How much
absolutely.
money do they want
No,
versus how fast do they want their money?
no.
Regardless how much it is, does it need to be there tomorrow? And that gives you that, and you can find that out by just going to meet somebody, have a listing appointment, and ask them, if I could sell your house in 6 months, is that acceptable? And if they say absolutely no way, we need to get out of here right away because we already bought another house or we're being transferred, well then they need to sell ASAP, and the amount of money is actually secondary to the speed of the money.
I still
So
ask every seller, what's more important to you, time or money?
I'll say that again.
I
I had
ask
a
every
little.
seller still, what's more important to you, time or money?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because every sell is part of that, right? Everything
Yeah,
you do has to do with either time or money.
yeah. You know, there was another one, and I never did this the next one because I was too frugal, partly, but also because I was confident that we could get the job done. But it was people were advertising, credit factor people, I will sell your house for zero commission, and of course they were banking on getting the buyer or buyers that they would eventually sell their homes for, or they will put something in there. As long as you use me to buy your next house, like I'll sell this house for free if you use me to buy your next house, and I'm going to be your agent there. I mean, who's ever raise your hand if you've heard of that one before or used it before, or type in the chat box. Yeah, yeah, and it works, doesn't it? Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I mean, let's face it, you work hard for your commissions. That's why I always tell people, I've had people give concessions on their commissions, and in the beginning, I did the same thing, guys. I just thought, that's what I got to do to get the deal done. But after a while, I got tired of it because you'll find out people will test you. And they'll ask just because they think there's a high probability you're an agent. You'll say yes. You'll take a cut on your commission. But what I started doing out of frustration was I would say, I'm a pretty good guy. I'm happy to help people out. It's just the way my heart works. I want to help people. So let me ask you, who else have you asked to help you? And then I'll listen to see what they say. And they say, what do you mean? I'll say, well, if you asked, let's think of all the people involved in this transaction. As me, you're selling your listing agent. You got the buyer's agent and the buyer. You've got the lender. You've got the title company. You've got the inspector. You've got the appraiser. Got all these people involved. I tell you what I'll do. You go through all those people and ask them the same question, and I'll pick the average of all the answers you get, and I'll match the average. And I never ever had them come back to me. They ask for a concession again because they're not going to call the lawyer and the lender and the inspector and everybody else under the sun. They, they come to us because they don't think we work that hard. It's a commission, it's not a salary.
Mhm.
And I can make the same argument. I'd ask them, well, when's the last time you asked for a tax accountant for a price break on doing your tax return. Have you ever done that before? And he would never. I never asked that. I know other people have tried that angle. I thought, well, that might not really work so well because they could say, well, my tax accountant has a degree in accounting. How about you? You know, and if you don't have a degree in accounting, then you could have some pie in your eye. But same thing with an attorney, that kind of thing. So I would ask the other question. I just list them all off and just kind of go around and let them mull on it. But um, so in any case, so guys, type in your questions. We got about 7 minutes till 8 here Eastern, and I'll stay on. And Dave, you're welcome to stay on too. I usually stay on a little bit longer after class just to talk, whatever people have transaction challenges and things like that. But I tell you what, while they're thinking, I do have another question for you. So um, do you have a favorite listing technique that you're using? Could have been from Craig Proctor or something that you improvise like a lot of us, and I took a lot of what I learned from Craig and just modified it, kind of made my own thing, you know.
I'm not sure. Explain that. I'm not sure. I'm not.
Oh, like if you have a did you have a favorite listing? Uh, I guess I should rephrase that. Do you have a favorite marketing campaign to get people to call you for for listing their home? You know, is there a like the your home sold guarantee, that one, for example? Is there one that you tend to drawn to when you were early in the business, or
Well, I mean, obviously that we were, I was drawn to. I mean, one of our most effective campaigns, the campaigns we use is radio. We do an awful lot of radio here. I did a radio talk show here for about 14 years on real estate on
nice?
Saturdays. Um, and well, actually, it's probably like 13 years. I quit it just right about COVID. But radio is huge, and we run radio commercials. Really, just try to make them as current as we possibly can. And honestly, we write those commercials based on, what people may be missing out on, what opportunities lay out there for them. But the radio is a really big one for us. We use a lot of talk radio, and it's very successful for us.
Good. Well, it's interesting because radio, believe it or not, still works. People, decades ago were worried about it when the internet came out and podcasts came out and YouTube came out and all this. But the fact is people still have radios in their cars, and anybody that drives at some point listen to the radio.
And
Um,
crazy, they still listen to it, right? I mean, I listen to Cirrus, but or Sirius or
yeah,
whatever it is, but I don't listen to the
serious.
terrestrial
Yeah.
radio.
Well, I do actually. I know agents who created their own channels on Sirius.
Hmm,
You know,
really?
call it the real estate channel. Doesn't have to be 24/7. That's the thing about Sirius is you could just have it run, the same time every night for an hour or something.
Hmm.
I have a
Yeah.
question, Gary. And
Okay.
my chat is disabled, but when you're using these videos with your clients, do you like meet with them and then say, I'm going to send you a short video, I'd like you to look at it, and then if you have any questions, call me? Or how do you integrate that into your sales process?
So at our listing presentation, I just let them know that we have videos for every step of the process, and that starts as of today. And so, like, if they have questions or whatever, make sure before they call and ask questions that they watch our videos, because they're really designed to keep them, in tune with what's going on with the transaction and what's going on with their process, whether that be a listing prior to contract process or the contract process. And so they always laugh about it, and they say great, and I tell them how great they're going to love them and how good looking I am on camera or some joke like that, something to break the ice with it. But 9 times out of 10, more than that. I mean, it's just, I'll give you a quick example. Sorry. Radon gas. Do you guys, I don't know if everybody here tests for radon gas where they're at. Well, the state of Colorado came out about 3 years ago and said, hey, it's in the contract now. You need to test for radon. Well, we were getting call after call every time. All these sellers were frustrated because of the radon gas test. 48 hours, can't have air coming in from outside, blah, 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 blah. Long story short, my assistant came into me one day and she said, oh my gosh, she said, if I have to answer one more question about radon, I swear I'm going to quit. I'm like, hold on a minute, tell me about that. And she did. I mean, literally the next day, I put together a quick video. It's about 2.5 minutes long. Had my marketing gal print up the state sheet for radon gas. I put together about a 3.5 minute, I think it's 3.5 minute video on radon. This was a couple of years ago. I bet you we haven't taken half a dozen phone calls in the last 2 years on radon gas from a seller. And
Nice.
so we just let them know that these videos are coming. And when they get a video, it's part of, again, it's our expectation setting that they watch these videos, right? Especially if they're going to have questions or they think they might have questions, watch the videos. And what it does is it just stops the questions, right? They can still call. I mean, it's not like you say, don't
Yeah.
call us. I mean, you're just like, hey, we put these out. Here's what these are for. We want to keep you informed on what's going on all the way through the process. This is part of the process, and we expect you to watch them. They're like, yeah, hell yeah, I'll watch them. And they do. And it literally eliminates almost all the phone calls from them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question, Kay?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Kay's from Texas.
Yeah. And Kay, we do that all the way down. We do it for showing feedback, how that works, showings, how those are going to work, closing, what you need to bring, where that's going to be, blah, blah, blah. I mean, all of these things. So you just don't have to make those phone calls anymore to do it. And they all show up and they all do it. And it's, works out amazing.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm not a big video person, but I guess they work better than I assume.
I am not a big video person either, and I really had to get past that. I've got a face for radio, to be honest with you. But what I found is once I got past it and we started implementing some of this stuff, it's really, really good. It's really a business changing deal. Out of all of the things we've done, implementing these strategically has been one of the most impactful things we've done.
Interesting.
Especially if volume is your game, right? If you're trying to do volume, and we are, and I love volume. I love the fast pace of always going, being busy. I love that stuff. If that is kind of your, predisposition, one of my agents, sorry, I'm going to pontificate. One of my agents loves to call and chat with her people. That's what fuels her, right? That's her soul food, right? It's just calling and chatting. That's not my soul food, man. That's not. It's like, let's go. I'm ready to go all the time. But she loves it. So I'm like, just don't send videos. I don't care. It's fine. If you don't want to send them, as long as you get it covered, do it. So she still loves to call, make the phone calls and do all that stuff. That's great. I mean, if that's what feeds you, then do it.
Yeah. Hey, Dave. Anna is actually from the same market area as Kay. I guess that the Texans are showing up large tonight. She's asking if we could flesh out the your home sold guaranteed a little bit. Like I guess if you had an example, or even just make up an example like the average sale price for your house and how far down you would drop, how many drops, and then what the actual terms of purchase are. Um, I think that would help alleviate some of their listeners or some of the students' fears here because it is scary at first. I tell you guys, I didn't do it at first. It took me a couple of years before I finally had the guts to do it. And because the reality is if you do it right, you'll never have to buy the house. Right, Dave?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean the idea isn't, and part of one of the times we got away from the guaranteed sale program is back in 2000 in our market was 2010, 11, and 12. A lot of other markets was 2007, 8, 9. But 10, 11, and 12, we were still using that, and everybody was underwater. And let me tell you, it wasn't a guaranteed sale program wasn't a great idea for me right then. But I mean, the way we used it was just that. I mean, you go up to them, they call you in for that. Here's the deal. Here's how this thing is going to work. And the rules of the game are, I did a market analysis on your house. It's $400,000, right? Here's the deal. And we'll get this thing sold in 90 days or we'll buy it from you for cash. Okay, that sounds great. Here's how the rules work, right? If you don't have it sold, if we don't have a contract on it, we don't have it sold within the first, 3 weeks, then we drop it 5%. Average, price reduction is 3 to 5%. So we go 5%. All right, that's cool. All right, we're going to go another, 30 days. If we don't have it sold in another 30 days, we're going to drop it another 5%. Okay, well, that's cool. All right, we'll do that. And then it's like, okay, after that, I may drop the price, but I'm going to start removing my commissions from it, right? So I got another 3%. So now I'm 13% off my original asking price. And you can make those numbers however you want it. In our market, depending on what the price point was, and you have a cap on it, like we never did. And back when we were doing it, we never did it on houses over 700 grand because they took a lot longer to sell, blah, blah, blah. But if they still wanted to do it, you could still do it and just elongate the time frame, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we did the whole your own sold guaranteed or we'll buy it for cash in 90 days, right? That was our deal. Sold in 90 days, we'll buy it for cash. They love that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you always have to have the ability to purchase, right? If you back yourself into a corner, you better be able to produce, right? That was always probably the scary part for a lot of people. But for us, we never offered anything we couldn't back up. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. So that's really how it works. You just reduce it by 5, you reduce it by another 5, then you pull your commissions out of it, and then when you get down to the nut cutting, then you're going to drop the other 3% out of it, and you're going to buy it from them. I've bought
Yeah.
3 houses.
You could do. Yeah. Well, that's not bad. Up to 3 houses over all those years and
Oh,
all the
dude,
transactions you did. That's that.
no,
Yeah.
I kept 2 of them as rentals. It worked out
Right.
fine. So it was just again, you got to be intentional and strategic about what you do, but you set the ground rules in place, and I don't know if Craig still does that program actively or not, but if he does, there's nobody better to ask than him about what the rules are and how to set that thing up.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure what's going on with him. I know there's I shouldn't say anything probably, but um, there's something going on there. We don't know what it is. So it may have run its course. Who knows? But back to this transaction. Another thing you could do is, let's say you're the agent and you do have to, you're looking at purchasing it. You could get it under contract and you could put the closing period, 30, 60, 90 days out, and you can sell the contract. You can even
Oh,
sell it
sure.
for no gain. You could assign it, because I keep marketing it and tell somebody, hey, off market deal, no commission, come and get it. And don't be surprised if you sell it that way.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, worst case scenario, you go to the closing. If you couldn't do it, you keep dropping it and you go to the closing with money, right?
yeah,
I mean, there's very few problems money can't solve
yeah.
when it comes.
And like you said, you're not going to do that on a $2 million house. You're going to do it on a something probably 500,000 or less, where the cash flow, the rent would cover any outgoing expenses.
Yeah, that's what we did. It was I think it was $500,000 is actually was our cap at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is Kathy Urick from Virginia. Do you work with mostly residential, or do you do commercial as well?
My sister does all of our commercial. I never got I never got interested in commercial. It just never floated my boat. So I
Yeah.
didn't. I like the residential game. So we do a lot of residential resale. Obviously, that's our bread and butter. New construction. We do a lot of new construction as well.
Yeah. Okay. When you get like duplexes and little things like that, or flips, does your sister take those too, or you
Um,
uh,
it really just for us, it depends on whether we view them as an owner occupant type sale. If we do believe that will bring the highest and best value, then I'll usually take it. If we look at it and say, hey, it's strictly a fourplex, this is an investor opportunity, then she'll
right.
take it because it's more of a commercial type deal or an investment type deal.
Yeah. I always like the flippers myself because I knew I would get a lower commission when they first buy a property because it's below market value. But I'd always put in, my first right of refusal on the listing when they go to resell it, so I could get that listing. So I knew I was going to get that commission because a flipper has to sell. I mean, if they're one of the most, you talk about, needing the money, they have to sell, or they're sometimes dead in their tracks. So you've got pretty much 100% certain you're going to sell a remodeled house as long as it's remodeled correctly. And if,
Yeah.
if if you're really good at marketing, you get the end user buyer too. So
Over the years, we did a lot of investor flipper stuff. That was a big piece of our business, and then we kind of started doing a lot more new construction. Now, new construction is probably 75 units a year for us. So That's always a
Right.
nice, it's always nice to have that inventory.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Um, okay, guys, we're a little bit over 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 Mountain Time. I'll stay on here for a little bit if you guys want. But if you have questions, I mean, Dave's here of his, I was gonna say of his own volition. I did ask him, but he graciously agreed to come here. And you're heading out of town. Actually, when are you heading out?
I leave a week from today. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, I hope you have an awesome time. I know you're, it's probably very well deserved, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you. Really good. We appreciate it.
Oh, no, you're more than welcome. I appreciate you guys,
Yeah.
taking me on, letting me learn on the fly a little bit here. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And you can
Well, I tell you
just,
what,
hey, just so you
let's
know,
catch up.
anybody who's got
Oh, yeah.
constructive criticism or feedback for this, it'd be so helpful. I have no pride.
Yeah.
So anybody who's got anything for that, that would be great. You can email me at dave@expectationselling.com. I would love that feedback, good or bad. It's totally good.
Dave, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. So if they go to expectationselling.com, can they get a little bit a better idea of the program you developed? And do you have any like a tips and tricks kind of a page there or like free
Yeah, you
reports, things
can.
like that they can grab?
Yep, you can get on there and it'll show you what we do, how we do it. There's 3 different levels you can get into it. Some of it,
Mhm.
there's some personal coaching along with it that seems to be people like, but a lot of opportunity there. And again, we're kind of in the infantile stages of this thing. So, we're pretty much open books, right? So if you have questions or whatever, we're easy to reach. We still work real estate every single day, 12 hours a day for the most part or more. So I'm pretty easy guy to get a hold of.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you doing this, and I'm happy to help you jump into the fray, so to speak. I know when I did it years ago, I didn't have a clue, and it probably was the worst thing ever. People were probably being nice to me, I mean, you gave us the outline, and then gave us some Q&A. That's pretty good, and we appreciate that.
Oh
Uh,
no, I'm a very appreciative of the opportunity. I very appreciate that. You've been very generous with me, and I can't thank you enough for that.
you're welcome.
Thank you for watching this episode of Monday Night Live. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.